The world economy is largely dependent on seaborne trade, as this covers the major areas of export and import. It's notable to also say that the shipping trade cannot survive only with the help of ships without efficient ports. This means that ships need the support from shore facilities such as ports, shipping offices, amongst other shore support. The effective ship-to-ship shore interfaces will need continuous upgrade to meet international best practices. Developmental issues that will cause policy changes, shape opinions are some of the issues that will be on the front burner on Maritime Radar. I'm Nneoma Obi-Asualo. Global shipping trends have shifted to economies of scale, focusing now on building bigger vessels. This will, however, require dredging of channels, strengthening quays, and introducing larger cranes for efficient delivery of cargoes. Nigeria must see the need of these developments. Therefore, deepening of the channels leading to Nigerian ports will place the country in a position of becoming an international standard maritime destination. As seen, Nigerian Ports Authority making this her priority. In this episode, our focus will be on the activities of the Stevedoring operators and how it has repositioned for greater efficiency. But before we go further into today's lineup on the program, let's find out the latest in maritime news.
In Nigeria, the Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, has assured indigents of the state that the proposed development of the Benin River Port, Enterprise Park and other projects to drive industrial and economic growth in the state are on course. Obaseki, speaking in Benin City, said his administration remains committed to transforming the state into a production hub to create a modern state where people will be empowered through initiatives that will prioritize employment creation, skills acquisition, and entrepreneurship. On the progress of the Benin River Port, the governor said the state has engaged technical advisors and they have done all the studies to check the water flow, water levels, as well as environmental impact studies. He noted that his administration now has an idea of what the port will cost, the kind of cargo that is likely to be taken along that route, and the viability of the port. France-based CMA CGM has entered into a deal through its subsidiary CMA Terminals to divest its ownership in Russia's Yanino Logistics Park and Moby Dick Ocean Terminal. This is the latest in Western shipping companies dissolving their stakes in Russian companies. As it stands, CMA Terminals holds 25% ownership in Russia's Moby Dick Ocean Terminal and the Yanino Logistics Park, with the rest belonging to Russian terminal company Global Ports Investments. CMA Terminals and Global Ports Investments also share a similar ownership arrangement in Finland's multi-link terminal, which operates at the port of Hamina Kotka. In the deal, CMA CGM will exchange its 25% ownership in the Russian terminals for an additional 25% stake in the Finnish terminal operator Multilink Terminal. After the exchange, Global Ports will assume full control of the Russian terminals and have 50% ownership in Multilink Terminal. CMA CGM will own the rest of the 50% in Multilink. The financial sanctions placed on Russia prevent Western companies from transferring money to Russian companies even when divesting their Russian investments. This kind of non-cash asset swap has been popular among Western companies as it complies with financial sanctions. Ship robberies in Asian waters increased by nearly 4% in 2022 compared to 2021. No fewer than 80 incidents were also recorded in the region in 2022, compared to 77 in 2021, according to Recap Information Sharing Center. Data shows that a number of incidents occurred at the Straits of Malacca and Singapore, while Indonesia, India, Bangladesh, and the Philippines also topped the list. Straits of Malacca and Singapore were top of the list with 55 incidents reported in 2022 compared to 50 incidents in Malacca and 34 incidents for Singapore in 2021. While Bangladesh reported no incidents in 2021, the country emerged as another hotspot for robbers in 2022, with 5 incidents reported, similar to 2020. Reported incidents in Indian waters remained at 5 in 2022. However, there is a good sign for Indonesia, which achieved a reduction in robbery incident in its waters. There were 9 incidents reported in 2022 against 13 in 2021 and 22 in 2020. Recap ISC in its latest weekly report termed the continued occurrence of incidents in the Singapore Strait as areas of concern. Recap has advised shipmasters and crew to report all incidents of piracy and armed robbery against ships to the nearest coastal state and flag state, exercise vigilance and adopt appropriate preventive measures, taking reference from the Regional Guide 2 to counter piracy and armed robbery against ships in Asia.
This is Africa. I bet you've heard a lot about it. But this is what you need to know. It's the home of the youngest and fastest growing population in the world. This, my friend, is opportunity right here. This is the future, and everyone wants Africa's attention. You need a voice that's African, young, conversational, a platform with the potential to reach millions of people across the continent with content they can relate to, such as lifestyle shows, sports and news, just the way they love it. Imagine all the people you could be talking to on News Central TV. Well, don't just think about it. Contact us for sponsorship and advert bookings. Put your brand where Africa is watching. It's News Central TV.
If you're just joining us, this is Maritime Radar. A stevedore is a professional in maritime cargo delivery operations certified by various international standard organizations. Operations span across ship to ship, ship to shore, shore to ship, midstream, onshore and offshore cargo delivery operations. In this chat with Bolaji Sunmola, President, National Association of Stevedoring Operators, he shared on how stevedoring has been repositioned for greater efficiency. Stay with us. You are the president of the National Association of Stevedoring Operators. Share with us your key achievements for 2022.
That's a long one to keep running through. But I want to say it's been a struggle of about 4 or 5 years, trying to extend our services to the offshore operations platform, which I know you are very aware of. And we had a lot of continuity, the larger part of this 2022. So to say that eventually some of the players in the industries have started to accept our operations at the various terminals, which we are appointed to our principal, Nigerian Ports Authority. I want to see that as key because that's a novel in the annals of maritime industry in Nigeria. We know what we have gone through the ranks of the IOCs by their refusal after pronouncements, after so many work to rule by the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria to say that we get to where we are. We want to say too that we didn't just achieve this on our own, but of course with the support of our principal, like I said, Nigerian Ports Authority, and NIMASA too. They played a huge role, not forgetting to the Solidarity Association that we have, the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria. It's been a wonderful year, but we thank God that we are where we are now.
So how has the engagement been with the IOCs?
It's been comme ci, comme ça in the sense that After they have duly agreed for this work to commence, of course, they now start setting in landmines that which can scuttle what they will say in principle they've agreed to. But we are rising up to the occasion. We are a professional body, and all that the required we have and we can meet, or we have even met, and we have the capable hands to run this work at the various platforms is not strange to us, only that the terrain and arena is completely different. And this is a challenge which we have for them to live up to their words. They must keep up their words. It's not good to say something and then shift the post and then elongating the process of engagement. The basic problem is actually the elongation of engagement, having agreed for this work to commence. But we are getting by and by.
So you see 2023 hopeful that the IOCs will do the needful?
Oh yes, we believe those of them that have not fully complied we should have a full compliance the very first quarter of 2023. We're very hopeful.
Looking at the maritime industry, you'll agree with me that there are idle potentials in the industry. How can we tap into these potentials in the industry, or unlock these potentials in the industry?
Unlocking it depends so much on what the private sector and the government can come together to be able to agree on the way moving forward. Because a lot of summits I've been to, and you yourself have seen organized, we call blue economy, and we know this is a very large economy when we, so to speak, if not about, I would say about 80% of the industry in Nigeria. Because whatever it is, the manufacturing, the productive sector, the service sector, all dependent on the what the maritime can deliver. Maritime is essentially about transportation, distribution, logistics, and all this. And without logistics, that nothing much can be delivery of your goods and all that. The potentials are actually huge, very, very huge. But how do we unlock it depends on having the right policy, having the right attitude, having the right collaboration between the private and the government to see that we move.
Do you think our problem is policies or implementation?
Or
the political will to implement?
Yes, I would say more of the political will to implement, because sometimes where you have the right policies, you have the right intention, you have the right laws, there are still people who want to scuttle and make it not work. So the political will to make it work is very, very important. And I would say it's very, very good to put the right square in the right place and not mismatch it when you have a mismatch in terms of skills, in terms of manpower, in terms of experience, in terms of exposure, in terms of even deployment of all capitals that are involved. This creates a lot of hole within this industry, and then you have what you call policy suicidal. I think that's...
The minister has announced the disbursement of the cabotage vessel financing fund. Yeah. What conversations should we be having around that?
Well, the CVFF for me, it's an area that I think we keep saying the same thing over the years. So many bodies are raising them, talk about SWAN and all that have come up to see that we are ready for this to be disbursed, and then maybe at the time you think this was to be done, then other issues come up and scutulate that, oh, we are not going to disburse this way, it's meant for some people and all that. So many issues are risen about this, and at the end of the day, I wonder why we are keeping the money there. Because the value of the money keeps going down, either we like it or not, over the years that this has been kept. I think basically we have to define, I think, the indigenous way. We have to come out with our own ingenious way, and the indigenous way whereby this will service. From the little I think I can say, a lot of the local traffic, why don't we nationalize that and don't allow foreigners to come in? And we know this will within us a lot of employment, and a lot of revenue can be generated when we localize it within us. And that can create a lot of other industries spinning up, shipping yards, shipping companies, shipping repairs, shipping colleges, and also many other awesome industries can spin off from this when we operate within ourselves.
Okay, Nigeria is losing, you mentioned the international country, but Nigeria is losing a lot of billions of naira to IOCs. How do we curb this?
Yeah, one of what we did, I mean, kudos to MPA and kudos to my association, because we saw that one of the loopholes is this offshore Stevedoring, which was not properly done by us. I mean, not that we just want to do it, not that we just want to go in there. We saw it as a gap, and as a way by which our foreign exchange has been filtered out of the country, and a lot of activities that are now known to government. You can imagine some weeks back, there was a discovery of a pipeline that was in the discharging of our crude oil, and all of these things. These are things that we stevedores can make discovery of. So there should be an indigenous participation at the offshore terminal. It should not be totally a foreign affairs whereby we don't have an eye onto what is happening. Nigeria has the capacity, has the skill, has the manpower, and has the zeal to see that this is done. Nothing cannot be, there's nothing new that cannot be learned, even if we are not doing it.
We'll be looking at our port, but that will be after this short break. Please stay with us.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa first.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Maritime Radio, and I still have with me in the studio Bolaji Sunmola. Before we went on that break, I said let us talk about our ports. Our ports are still clogged. How can we achieve a 48 hours clearance in our ports?
Achieving 48 hours clearance has been on the deck for how many years now? We've had that the ports work around the clock and all that, but how efficient is it? To me, it's not about.
But that's not our reality.
But I agree with you. We've forgotten that this cargo that are offloaded or to be laden has to be moved. And it's in that movement that there's a lot of friction and a lot of problems, because our logistics model is very, very poor. And that's why we keep talking. And the experts keep talking to about intermodal system.
Okay.
The vessel has come in, then the road has to do it. The rail has to come in. And we can imagine the development surrounding most of our ports environment. Coming in and out of Papa in the last 6 to 7 years has been equivalent. So many lives have been lost. So these are the things that are impeding the efficiency of our ports and having a 48 hours clearance. Yeah. So all these things has to be looked into. Over the years, we've been struggling with having a smooth traffic movement.
But if we continue with this, we cannot compete with other ports in Africa. So what are the short-term and long-term solutions that you will prefer?
We need to be a bit frank with ourselves, take some drastic actions. One, the roads should be there. You don't have road maintenance lasting for over 3-4 months, and whereby one part of the road will be shut, and there will not be movement we are looking for, because the route must be smooth and must be very accessible. Two, intermodal transportation, the rails that are in the port must work. Okay. Rails must move in and out of the port smoothly for goods to be either brought in for export and then discharge of cargoes, imports to be able to move completely away. And also encourage other ports, maybe port developments or other ports across the country, to have a similar, a seamless and a wonderful professional, good working operations whereby cargoes come in and come out, so that we don't have just a one single port entry, which we have, whereby Lagos is doing maybe 80% of all cargoes in because of convenience of the shippers' lines.
So, but what is holding them to develop the other ports? Because I realized during the Mahom NEC meeting, they mentioned that other ports has to be dredged so that they can move some of the cargoes from Lagos ports to other ports. So what is holding that? I
think, look, taking the ports singly, one by one, the Warri port has its own peculiarity of issues. Have to increase the depth and all that. The Port Harcourt too has its own. The Calabar too, a major peculiar one. I think at the point in time there was some money given for dredging. Whether it was done or not, we cannot say no, but we have not had the report card of that. And then when you go around these ports, what is building up in Apapa is also building in around the states. So each MPA has an equivalent task to see what are the things that are impeding them, and we, the consumers, too, have to come together and support MPA in order to see that all the clogs of these bottlenecks are removed. If not, all our ports will just be like Lagos in a very short time. How does the completion of Lekki Deep Sea Port come to you? Oh, and what should we be doing differently with that port? Oh, fantastic. That is a great one. And the Lekki Deep Sea Port, oh, I hope to be able to bring ameliorate the problems we have in the port. But then again, the issue of accessibility and road logistics movements and all that, no rail has been put in place. The roads we had, they are good, been awarded, and it's going to be... So you see it going the same way? Oh yes, I see it going the same way. And fortunately, MPA are not the one responsible for it, but they have a voice to put to government that this must be done. Let's have a rail. I understand that corridors, you have the trans-African highways in that corridor too. Why don't you encourage for that to be done? Because when you have vessels coming with millions of containers, how are they going to be evacuated? And then the population around the port is growing, and we have people